Cellucor Nation, back at it again, Chef Bob in the house. Today, good recipe we're going to be making that a lot of people have replicated off many of my protein reviews on various forms, which is bread pudding. Bread pudding is known as a pretty good dessert. A lot of people have not had it, but overall, it became one of my favorites once I started to actually mess around with it and make it on my own. So let's get right to the mix here. What do we bake bread pudding in, and at what temperature? My oven is set at 350 degrees, which you should preheat to. You're going to need a 9x9 pan that I have here, some cooking spray. What did I use? I used about 2 cups of almond milk, 400 grams. I used some liquid egg whites, but you can use regular egg whites, sorry. I used about 2, which is around, I think, 60 grams or so in liquid egg whites. A dash of vanilla extract, which I already have in my dry ingredients. And speaking of the dry ingredients, what did I use? Well, I used 30 grams, which is just a touch under, of 1 scoop of the Whey cookies and cream, because the cookies and cream, in my opinion, is the best flavor off the line. The little cookie pieces in the in the powder, really set it apart and really taste delicious, being a cookie guy. So I used 1 scoop in the dry ingredients. I used, which I have here is all the bread. I'm using 8 slices. It's a lighter variety that my mom got, and before it goes bad, I want to use the rest of it, so that's why we're using it today. You can use regular bread, but again, the calories will differ. I used about 6 to 9 grams of Splenda to give it a little sweetener, a tablespoon of baking powder to help it rise, sugar-free, fat-free pudding mix, which I use a lot. I used 1 serving, 8 grams, which will help with the overall consistency and binding of the product. But other than that, it's very simple. So what do we do, and how do we make it? First, we're going to take our cooking spray and spray down our 9x9 sheet. And make sure you get all the sides and everything underneath. Next process is actually taking the bread, and with that, you're going to take it and rip it with your hands and just set an even layer at the bottom. I'm just going to close the camera, peel it myself, and then I'll come back once it's already ripped up. So, take your bread, rip it up into small pieces, and layer the bottom. And just before we mix everything together, as I have the bread pudding there, the bread shredded up, look at those cookie pieces. This is why I love the CNC, the cookies and cream from Cellucor, because those really cookie pieces add a great flavor to the finished product. Now, it's very simple. We take the liquid mixture that we mixed up and we pour it on top of the dry here that is sprayed with cooking spray in our 9x9 and the shredded up bread. And it's going to be very liquidy, like I said, but just try and disperse it the best you can, and it will rise above the bread. That's perfectly fine, because what you're going to do is you're going to take a fork and you're just going to pat down the bread and kind of disperse the milk as best as you can. And this way you get all the bread underneath the milk and all the wet ingredients, So that way, when you get everything underneath, all the wet, and you have the dry all submerged, this is when we're going to put it in our oven. And when we bake our bread pudding, 350, as we preheated the oven, it should take around 35 to 45 minutes. And when we're done, I'll pull it out and I'll stick it with a toothpick. If it comes out with no debris or no wetness on it, we know it's done. Alright? So let's put this in the oven. And while this is in the oven, I'm going to bring the camera over here real quick. I have the recipe written down. Alright? Bread pudding. 8 slices of bread. I used the lower caloric bread. 8 grams of sugar-free, fat-free pudding mix. 9 grams of Splenda. 30 grams of the Whey. And baking powder. 1 egg, 2 whites, or about 60 grams liquid egg whites. 400 grams almond milk. About 2 cups vanilla extract. Boom. Around 725 calories. 55 grams of protein, around 95 grams of fat, and 95 grams of carbs, 15 grams of fat. Baked there at 350 for around 35 to 45 minutes. So there is everything. Why do I have estimations? Because if you use different breads, and you use whole milk, skim milk, your overall calculations are going to vary. So let's see what the finished product looks like in 45. And here we go. The timer went off. So I'm going to pull out our bread pudding here. Oh, wow. Yep, came out great. And as you can see, nice, fluffy, looks really thick, texture. Put a toothpick in there, nothing came out, nothing clean. Now, when we bake our bread pudding, you can't eat it right away. So what I suggest is let it cool for about 35 to 45 minutes on a cooling rack, as you see here. Then what you're going to do is place it in a fridge overnight, or at least 6 to 8 hours before eating. This way the bread pudding can cool, and it will actually harden and solidify. Kind of resembles like a cheesecake. And when it does that, the overall texture and binding will actually make a very, very thick and finalized bread pudding, which is fantastic. Things I like to do. I like to make a little side of protein pudding, which I make with Greek yogurt and protein powder. You could do it with the cookies and cream and Greek yogurt. Spread it on top to give it kind of a little, frosting. You could put the Walden's Farm syrups on there, dice up fruit, strawberries, bananas, whatever you prefer. So there's many options and many things you can get creative with your caloric intake. This is just a base recipe to show you what bread pudding is and how it looks when it's finalized. But overall, Cellucor Nation, I hope you enjoy the videos. Any request, hit me up on YouTube, B. Kupneski, like you see on the channel here. Also, look in the comment box below. The description will tell you the recipe, the cooking, and the macros. Any other questions, feel free to add me to Instagram. Same name, B. Kupneski. Other than that, I'll keep pumping them out, and hopefully you guys enjoy them at the Cellucor Nation. Thanks again.